Hey, it's Callan with Integral Lifestyle Design, and today I want to talk to you about masculine and feminine energy. This is a topic I've wanted to talk about on here for a long time. It can get pretty deep and it can be pretty complicated, so what I've tried to do is I've tried to hit it in the middle. I've tried to simplify things and explain it clearly, but I've also tried not to dumb it down. I try to go deep with it. And I haven't really seen a video like this on YouTube, at least doing it the way I do it. And this is just my combination of experiences and knowledge and so on, so on. So look at it as a perspective. It's not absolute truth, but it's my personal perspective on how this stuff works. Where it comes from, if you want to do some Googling, it mainly comes from Ken Wilber's integral theory. It comes from Martin Usick's relationship theory. It comes from David Data's work. And then it also comes strongly from like Taoist and Tantric techniques that have been sort of taught for a long time, thousands of years. So here is my way of looking at masculine and feminine energy. And let's jump into it. I hope that you find this interesting because I put a lot of heart and soul into this one. So, why is it such a confusing topic? Because masculine and feminine can be seen as very confusing. And for the context of this video too, I don't want to talk about men and women. I'm using strictly masculine and feminine because they're energies. So not all men are masculine, not all women are feminine. There's lots of crossover. Essentially, masculine and feminine are two lines of development. And some people, or most people, have one primary pole. So most people are either more masculine or more feminine. Some people are really close to the center as well. But on average, more people lean towards one more than the other. So let's get into it. Why is it confusing? Masculine and feminine energy exists within all human beings. So everyone has masculine and feminine inside of them. Modern culture often confuses sex, gender, and energetic polarity. So these all work together, but they're different things. They're not the same, and we'll go into that as well. Understanding these energies can deepen self-awareness, attraction, and relationships. So if you understand this stuff, you can have deeper awareness of who you are, you can understand how attraction works on a deeper level, and you can have more fulfilling relationships, so it's a beautiful thing to know. And then the goal is not to become only masculine or feminine, but to consciously integrate both. It's like a lot of things. If you go too far in one direction, you can suffer. If you go far into the masculine and you suppress your feminine, that can't be great. It can hurt you. And if you do the opposite, the same. So hopefully that makes sense. Right. Now, this is sort of controversial, so I wanted to hit it from a very logical, systemic, integral approach. And you don't have to agree with it. It's just my personal approach on these things. But it's reinforced by, spending hundreds of hours researching this stuff. So, sex, gender, and energy. So, sex, the way I see it, is it's the biological body. It's the physical structure. And usually that's being a male, a biological female, or sometimes you get intersex and you get people that are somewhat in the middle, although that's quite rare. So that's sex. Sex is purely biology, at least in my definition we're going to talk about here. Gender is the social and cultural expression. So, gender is basically the culture. It's gender roles. It's how society treats people of different sexes and genders. And gender doesn't just have to be male, female. There can be other genders. Like, for example, in Thailand, they've got kathoey, which are like trans women. I think kathoey is the right word. Correct me if I'm wrong. And essentially, they're seen in Thailand as a whole separate gender. So it's not something that's recent, even though recently it's been more prominent. This stuff's been around for a long time. And then masculine and feminine, these are the energies. This is an energetic polarity. And these energies attract each other. And there is a connection between these things, but they're not inherently related. Like, you can have a male who's feminine. You can have a male who even identifies as female. All of that stuff still works under this model. So these layers interact, but they're not the same. So if someone's a male, they don't have to play a male gender role, and they're not necessarily masculine. Let's keep going. So, sex is biology. So that includes the physical structure of the biology. That's also the hormones. That's the reproductive capability. Essentially, do they have the seed or do they have the egg? Then there's physical differences. It could be size, it could be strength, it could be brain structure, it could be anything. And then there's a difference in testosterone and estrogen. So biological males usually have more testosterone. Biological females usually have more estrogen. And then the body shapes experience, but it is not the entirety of consciousness. So a male body can move and behave in certain ways, and that can be different from how a female body would behave, how it would experience the world. And that's totally fine. But just because your body is one thing doesn't mean you have to be other things. It's just a physical vehicle or physical structure. Now, gender is culture and identity. So that could be the identity, that could be the role. So there's certain gender roles in different cultures. Men do certain things, women do certain things. And then, yeah, essentially there's been gender roles throughout history. And they're becoming more relaxed now, but there are times and there's still cultures where those roles are very strict and very enforced. Say, take like the Middle East, for example, like somewhere like Afghanistan. Also, there's cultural expectations. So, for example, for men, it could be the expectation that if there's a war that they go and fight. For women, it could be an expectation that they need to have enough children to keep the population going. And, you know, there's expectations saying you're in this gender role, therefore society expects you to do X, Y, Z. Then you've also got expression. So, for example, if a man acts feminine in certain cultures, that can be shunned. Or if a woman acts masculine, that can be shunned. And these are earlier levels of evolution, but you can look through history and you can look at how gender roles were enforced even 100 years ago. I mean, now they are, but you go back a couple of 100 years and you'll see it way more. And there's always outliers. You know, humanity's evolving and growing at its own rhythm, and it's a big complicated organism that we're a part of. It's pretty amazing. Then there's social conditioning. So, like, biological males and females were raised differently in different cultures. They were given different expectations, told they had to do different things. Like, for example, biological male in the West was historically taught you have to provide for a family, you need to earn money, you need to do all this. Biological women were the other way. It's like, okay, well, you have to keep the home clean and you have to have the children and you need to be the mother and prioritize that. Again, these were just gender roles that were historically based. And you can kind of see that through different ways. Then you've got the gender changes across cultures and throughout time. So as you can see, our expectations around gender roles over times have relaxed, which has been great for men and for women, but particularly women because they were suppressed a lot more historically than men have been. And then you've got power plays as well. So you've got powerful people would suppress both men and women and force them into roles, such as someone who is powerful would prevent women from working, or they'd force men to go and fight their wars, or so on like that. So there's all these power plays and things. And over time, as humanity has collectively, hopefully, built more empathy and deeper understanding of people around the world, these gender roles have relaxed and people can be more who they want to be, which I believe is a good thing. Okay, now let's talk about energy and polarity. So we've got masculine and feminine here. Masculine, as in energy, again, we're not talking about male, female here, we're just talking about energy. The masculine energy is all about stillness, presence, and structure. So stillness is basically peace. The masculine wants to be at peace. It wants to be present, it wants to be fully there in the moment, and it wants structure. So the masculine energy wants everything to be stable. It wants everything to be nice and structurally put together. Think of the laws of physics in the universe. That's a good core example of masculine energy. You can't see it, you can't touch it, but it does exist. There are laws of physics. The feminine is more about flow, motion, and life. So the feminine likes to flow. It likes to be present in the moment, but it wants to sort of be flowing. It wants to be doing things, not just being. So the feminine's more doing, where the masculine is more being. The feminine enjoys motion, it enjoys moving. And the feminine also enjoys life, and life is a form of motion, and it's a form of flow. So the feminine is life. So essentially we could look at the differences. A masculine energy is a container, such as the laws of physics, or just a container where things can happen. And then the feminine is what fills it. So the feminine in the universe is all physical things, all life, you know, the stars, the planets, every living organism is an expression of feminine. It's an expression of something that's filling the container. And both of these energies exist within all beings. To look at it from a higher spiritual level, the masculine is your awareness. It's the thing that's aware. It's the thing that is alive and know that it exists. Where the feminine is the actual form, so it's your body, it's your personality, it's your thoughts, and so on. And they go together. And there's masculine and feminine in all things. There's a witness, there's a container, which is a masculine, and then there's stuff in there. And that's the feminine, that's the form, that's the separation. And That's why I use the yin yang symbol, because it shows that really clearly. So let's have a talk about what polarity actually is. So polarity is the attraction between complementary energies. So masculine and feminine is an example of this. Opposite poles create tension and movement. So this is one of the things that causes attraction. Usually in most relationships where there's sexual attraction, there is a form of polarity between the masculine and the feminine energies. And that's true for heterosexual couples, but it's also true for gay couples. It's also true for lesbians. There's still usually some form of masculine feminine pole. And that doesn't have to be the same person. So sometimes the masculine and the feminine pole can move between different partners. So maybe one day you're masculine, your partner's feminine, and then the next day that swaps. But there's always that attraction. It's like a magnetism. And that's what creates essentially sexual attraction and other forms of attraction as well. It's not the only thing, but it's a big thing. Neither of these poles is superior. So the masculine and the feminine are completely equal. Neither is better than the other, and they need each other. They rely on each other. They flow together. There's no competition here as to who's better. That just doesn't exist. This is just energy doing its thing. It's like magnets. Like two magnets are attracting each other. Which magnet's better? It's not a valid question. It doesn't make sense. And both of these things are necessary for balance. In us, in our relationships, and also the universe as a whole. If there was no container for stuff to happen, stuff couldn't happen. Then the masculine and feminine are examples of polarity, like we said before. So there's other polarities that do exist as well. Okay, so let's start jumping into the energies on a deeper level. We're going to start with masculine energy, pure masculine. So we've got the witness. The witness in you is the thing that is alive, that's watching. It's the part of you, like the deepest part of you, that watches life happen. It's also stillness, so think you're like in deep meditation or deep dreamless sleep. Just there's nothing going on, complete stillness. Then there's complete presence. You're completely here in the moment and experiencing what's going on as it is without any bias. Then there's the void. So the void is basically masculine without feminine. There's a witness and there's nothing to witness. So imagine closing your eyes and just being in a void of nothingness, or going in one of those sensory deprivation tanks. That's a deeply masculine energy. And then there's structure. So that could be like the laws of physics. That could be a system of how a business runs. It could be the physics behind how a car works. Something along those lines. It's physical structure. Then there's also direction. So masculine is often very purpose-oriented. It usually has some form of mission, and it expands into that mission. So you could see the universe's masculine energy is what you can call eros, or the evolution of life. So it's life expanding and life becoming more complicated. And that expansion itself could be seen as a masculine energy. Consciousness. So this is just awareness, being aware that you exist, being aware that others exist. The container. So again, that's the space that allows things to happen. Think of a cup. Water goes into a cup. That's the purpose of the cup. It's to contain liquids, right? But liquid can't exist in a cup if there's no cup. So with the universe, life can't exist without the container for it to exist, which is the universe. Again, we're going to deepen this one. Stability. So being stable, being calm, being unmovable, like being a mountain, that kind of energy. Then we've got masculine energy creates space within which life can unfold. It's like the seed for life. Like in Hinduism, they've got Shiva. It's like the force that creates the universe, but it's also the force that destroys the universe, and it goes around in a big circle. Then we've got shadow material. So this is why, again, it's not always healthy to be purely masculine or feminine, and everyone has both in them to an extent. Some people are far more masculine than others, but everyone's got some feminine. Doesn't matter how much of a bro you want to be. So masculine shadow material, one of the main ones is domination. So being physically dominant and assertive and using that to harm others to get what you want. So basically hurting others because you want something and being a bit of a psychopath about it and not caring about how they feel. And suppressing, it's kind of allowing other people to not be able to feel and live. Like there's an old saying I like, which is you should be able to do whatever you want as long as you give others that same freedom. And I think that's quite beautiful. Another shadow element is emotional suppression. So the masculine without feminine can really struggle to feel its feelings, and it can become numb. And that numbness can come out in unhealthy ways. If they stew these emotions and store them, and then they can explode unpredictably, and that can be insanely toxic and destructive, both for themselves, but also for other people around them. Like internally, that could be seen as something like depression or wanting to not be here anymore. Externally, it could be something like domestic violence or something along those lines. Rigidity. So it can get really set in its ways, and some force will come and try and move it, and it won't move. It'll just sit there and be stubborn. It won't be able to evolve because it's too tight. Then control. It can be obsessed about control. Think of someone like Andrew Tate or that kind of archetype, someone that just wants everything to work. And when something doesn't work, they get angry and they freak out and they become like children. So they can be overly controlling. Aggression. So using physical violence, using physical force to get what you want. That can also be very harmful and destructive. Like think of a war, like the collective masculine of one country attacking another. Disconnection. Again, not being able to feel their feelings properly, they can become disconnected. They can become isolated. They can be lonely. That could be having no friends or not having a partner, or it could just be totally not being able to connect to your feelings or to other humans. Again, and then the last one is you've got without heart and openness, structure becomes tyranny. So structure's all well and good, but there's no soul. And structure without soul can easily become tyranny. It can become overly rational. It can become overly dominative. And people can suffer because, say, like there's a tyrannical dictator king, and he just is a total psychopath and narcissist, and he's just mean to everyone and basically uses his power to up himself and doesn't really care about anyone else. That could be like a massive masculine shadow. So that's again why we want balance. We want some feminine to come in there too and nurture and to heal and to connect us and make us feel. So let's jump into feminine energy now. So we've got flow. So there could be like dancing, walking, or just the flow of life, just the rhythm of life. Going to a party, enjoying your family, enjoying your friendships, moving. Then we've got emotion. So it's feelings, it's feeling stuff. It's a core feminine energy. And this is why often more feminine beings are more connected to their emotions. So it can be able to really feel your feelings, to feel the big ones like happiness and sadness and anger, but also being able to feel more subtle emotions, more subtle joys, things like melancholy or more complicated sort of feelings. Being able to articulate how you feel and actually sit in your emotions without having to overly analyze them. I know one thing I struggle with is I'll analyze my emotions rather than feel them. Not always, but that's a shadow element I'm working on in my own life. Then we've got creation, so it's life. Feminine is life, it's living things. It's like humans, it's animals, it's any alien life, it's the whole lot. It's the whole creation is like a feminine force. The masculine's like the engine that expands, but then the feminine is the expansion itself. So then we've got form, it's physical stuff. It's also anything that's physical that you can see and touch, but also psychological, like a personality or something along those lines. That's all feminine energy. Energy itself can be seen as feminine because it's moving. Nature, so all living things. Sensation, being able to feel, so that could be being able to feel emotions, but it can also be physical sensation. It can be pleasure, it can be pain, stuff along that. Feeling alive, feeling like you're a person, feeling like you're a human being, feeling like you're a part of a community. It's a beautiful feminine energy. Then intuition, so again, being able to feel your feelings and being able to sort of like a gut feeling, knowing what feels good, knowing what feels bad, not being numb to that. Like imagine you're being stalked by a tiger and you feel unsafe, you feel uncomfortable. That's a feminine instinctual emotion. And then there's movements. That could be any form of movement. And then you connect movement and flow and you get a very healthy feminine. So that could be something like dancing. And then feminine energy brings motion, feeling, and life into existence. So it's a beautiful part of life. You can see that masculine and feminine both have their own massive pros, and you can sort of hopefully see that we have both in us. But the feminine also has shadow material. So one is chaos. So when the feminine isn't grounded, it can easily become chaotic. It can become completely controlled by its emotions. It can't sit still. It's always moving. So if it's angry, or if it's lost, or if it's spiraling, it can just get lost in that, and that can become a form of psychosis at its extreme, because there's no grounding, there's nothing to keep it present, nothing to keep it at peace. Then we've got emotional flooding. So this is, look at like a child when they cry. They're just totally in the crying. There's no way out of that. So feminine shadow can be being flooded by your emotions all the time. And there's times for that. But imagine you're in a business meeting and your boss rejects you, rejects your idea, and you burst into tears in the office. Like, sometimes that's not going to be the best look. Or other examples along those lines anyways. Sometimes you want to be able to be strong in the moment and to be present and to sort of not numb yourself, but to sort of control your emotions. And then you've got manipulation. So the feminine energy can be very manipulative. Where the masculine's manipulative through violence, through physical force, the feminine is usually violent and manipulative through subtle force. So that could be canceling someone on social media. That could be spreading rumors about someone that allows them to be ostracized or separated from the group. It's more subtle types like that. It could be gaslighting someone into believing something happened that didn't happen. Then you've got victimhood. So the feminine shadow, they can think they're the victim. They can think they're in a world full of oppressors and they're a victim and they're helpless. And they can take that on as an identity. And they can take that on as absolute truth, that they're a victim and that it doesn't matter what they do because they're going to constantly be basically treated unfairly and unkindly because they identify as a victim or they identify with trauma. Then you've got lack of grounding. So this is very similar to chaos. They can just spiral off into all sorts of emotion. Then you've got reactive emotions. So this can be, say someone gets triggered and they just start having an emotional backlash to what you're saying. And once that happens, all rationality goes out of the window. The masculine being that more rational, logical part of the universe. The feminine being the feeling, the emotion. But if you're having a debate with someone, if you debate a point and your opponent just starts having an emotional breakdown there and starts crying and swearing at you and calling you names, then that doesn't really help. So that's a shadow element. And then we've got, without grounding and awareness, flow becomes chaos. And this is where all feminine beings have masculine in them. They're able to suppress these, not suppress, but they're able to handle these shadow elements. And you can see how all human beings have a masculine and a feminine shadow, as well as masculine and feminine energy. And the extent of that shadow can depend on how strong they are. So a very masculine being is more likely to have a stronger masculine shadow, and a more feminine being is likely to have a more powerful feminine shadow. They're opposite, yet they're interconnected. That's why I've got the yin-yang. So for those of you that don't know, the yin-yang symbol is two opposites, but they contain each other. So you can see clearly there's two opposites, and they contain one another. So you've got the yin, you've got the yang, and the yang contains the yin, and the yin contains the yang. It's a really ancient, powerful symbol. So masculine energy contains feminine energy. Masculine beings have a feminine side. Feminine contains masculine, so feminine beings have a masculine side. Neither of those are superior. One provides structure, one provides life. Together they create balance. And the goal is not sameness, the goal is conscious harmony. So it's in finding where you naturally sit in your lines of development for masculine and feminine energy. Again, if I can jump back, you can see I've clearly put it as two lines. If you look down to the left, I've got masculinity and femininity, and I've made them two lines of development. A lot of people look at it as a spectrum of masculine or feminine, but the truth is they're two separate lines of development. That's why you can have both, and we all have both. So here's the power of polarity, of that attraction. So opposite energies naturally create attraction. It's a form of magnetism. It's no different than two magnets attracting each other. The more powerful that magnetic field is, the more attraction there are between the two magnets. And then difference create tension, movement, and chemistry. So again, another spark of attraction. Then masculine and feminine often feel magnetized toward what they themselves lack. So a very masculine being might struggle to feel their feelings. So therefore they're attracted to a feminine partner who can really feel their feelings. Or the opposite, maybe a feminine being can't feel their feelings. And they lack grounding, they're a little bit chaotic, so then they find a masculine being and pair with them that allows them to ground more fully and to sit in their feminine in a healthier, more harmonic way. Then you've got attraction is often strongest when two energies complement one another. So again, if you're naturally masculine, you can sit in that masculinity without having to lean as far into your feminine because you have a partner who's very good at that. And that creates a form of harmony. You basically, you can be more complete together than you could be separate. It's a really beautiful thing. And then the masculine may be drawn toward emotional depth, flow, softness, alive, and spontaneity. These are all things that a very masculine being might lack. So they might lack that emotional depth. They might struggle with flow. They might lack softness. They might be a little bit hard and abrupt. They might feel a little bit, not dead, but like numb. They might be a little bit numb. And then they might lack spontaneity. They might be a little bit stuck in their ways. So if they have a feminine partner who brings all of that into their life, that's going to bring a lot of joy. It's going to enhance them and it's going to help them to integrate their own feminine. All beautiful things. Then the feminine may be drawn toward groundedness, direction, calmness, stability, and presence. So the feminine can lack these. It can lack grounding. It can be more chaotic. Sometimes it won't have a direction. It just kind of floats aimlessly. Sometimes it's not calm because the emotional spikes are very powerful. Sometimes it feels like it's more in a chaos and it has trouble being at peace and being still. And sometimes it can lack presence, but different to the masculine, it can lack presence because there's too much going on, because it's moving too fast, because the emotional flood is too intense for them to sit in peace. So again, a feminine being like that meets a masculine being who has all of those things, that could greatly improve their life. That's why it's a beautiful dance. As you can see on the graph little table I have over there, you've got a masculine person and a feminine person, or someone who has more masculine energy, someone who has more feminine energy, and together they could be very aligned. They could really help each other, and that kind of relationship could be really healing. Plus, those two energies would attract each other. There'd be a very strong attraction there between those two individuals. Because we're often attracted to qualities that help to balance and complete us. So if you're lacking feminine qualities, you'll probably seek a more feminine partner, and the other way around as well. And then polarity is one factor of attraction among many others. So obviously, with your partner, this isn't the only thing that makes you attracted to them. I mean, there's biology, there's hormones, there's culture, there's lifestyle. There's lots of things that attract you to someone. Then there's love. You know, you can love someone and not necessarily be sexually attracted to them, which is, I mean, most love's like that. Think of everyone you love, and maybe you're only sexually attracted to one person, being your partner. Or maybe a couple if you're in an open relationship, but that's about it. So attraction isn't, attraction's, what do I call it? It's like a desire to, it's a kind of sexual thing on its essence. As far as polarity goes, it's about finding someone who has what you lack, and you can build with that person and create something better than either of you could separately. So, masculine and feminine as a dynamic dance. And it's a beautiful dance. I love it so much. Masculine creates structure. Feminine brings life into the structure. The masculine witnesses. The feminine expresses. The masculine grounds, and the feminine moves. And see how these energies complement each other. So, giving each other what we lack. We talked about this a bit just then. So, healthy polarity allows people to support each other's growth. And that's because presence can calm emotional chaos. If a being is chaotic, presence can calm them down. Emotion can soften emotional numbness. So if someone's overly numb, an emotional partner can help them to feel their feelings. Structure can support creativity. So if someone's creative but there's no structure, that can just be chaos. Flow can bring warmth into rigidity. If someone's rigid but they can't feel, flow can bring more warmth to that. It can allow them to be in the moment more. Direction can stabilize uncertainty. So if someone's uncertain, then a partner who has more direction can help with that. Sensitivity can humanize hardness. If someone's hard and rigid and set in their ways, someone who's more sensitive and emotional and feeling can humanize them. Say someone who's a big businessman might just see other people as obstacles, where they have a partner who comes in and brings the humanity back, shows them that that guy they're screwing over is actually someone with a family. He's got a family and he's just trying to look after him, and he's trying to do the best he can with what he has. So they can bring empathy. Empathy can get lost in masculine shadow. And then the difference can become a path towards wholeness. Again, we find a partner and we balance each other out. We help each other to grow. That's the beauty of a nice relationship. You help each other to grow, to become more whole. It's a vehicle towards becoming more whole. At least it can be. When polarity weakens. So, as you can see on the left in the table, now you've got two people where their masculine and feminine energies are quite similar. And these people can still love each other. They can still even be attracted to each other. But what could be missing is that magnetism that pulls them together, that primal urge. And it can still be there, but it's not as strong. So, attraction is often fueled by energetic difference. So, in this instance, this couple wouldn't be as attracted to, say, where are they? This couple. Just on a pure biological, primal level, at least. In other ways, they could be. Masculine and feminine polarity create tension and magnetism. So that's a magnet that pulls people together. That basically pulls two people into having sex, having a child, and continuing the flow, continuing the humanity or any other organism. It's a powerful force that's in all of us. And as two people become more energetically identical, the charge between them can reduce. Basically saying that if couples balance out their masculine and feminine energies and become closer, that primal sexual attraction can diminish. And that doesn't mean they don't love each other. There's plenty of couples, and this can even be a healthy thing. Just because that primal sexual attraction isn't as strong, that doesn't diminish the love. The love can still very much be there. It can still very much be very powerful. And couples that have been together for decades sometimes don't even care as much about that sexual attraction because they're whole in other ways. This is just one of many ways that people can connect. And then we've got relationships can slowly shift from passion into neutrality, friendship, and routine. So, and you see this in relationships a lot. They usually start with a lot of passion, limerence, which is like that chaotic in love kind of feeling where the hormones go crazy. And that stabilizes into a real, more stable love. And over time, that can be more what a relationship's about. It's not about powerful sexual polarity, deep primal attraction. It can become more about companionship, can become about love, can become about building something together like a family. And that can be really beautiful. And then other couples stay polarized for the whole relationship. It just depends. We're all individuals. So, an integrated human. So, a healthy human develops both energies, both masculine and feminine, because we have both. And to live a happy, fulfilling life, being able to feel both of these and to have an evolved version of both of these is powerful. So the healthy masculine, it's grounded, but it's also emotionally open. This is essentially the pinnacle of stoicism, to be totally in control of your emotions, but to feel them fully. So to be grounded and emotionally open. That would be a masculine leaning being at their prime. Now the healthy feminine, a feminine being in their prime, is flowing, but also stable. So they're in that flow, they're in that fully being life and feeling life, but they're also grounded. They're also stable. They have systems and structures that allow them to be comfortable. So that's a healthy, ideal feminine energy. So the masculine contains the feminine contains the masculine, and integration between those two energies creates wholeness. So let's go into conscious love. Love and polarity can coexist. They're not necessarily the same. I mean, you probably love your mother, you probably love your siblings, but you're not necessarily attracted to them, at least hopefully you're not. Right, then we've got healthy relationships honor both energies. So that means if you're a masculine being, you don't just honor your partner's feminine, but you also honor their masculine. You honor the whole being. And that goes the other way around as well. That creates a beautiful connection. You can have the polarity of you being mainly masculine and then being mainly feminine and having that attraction. But if you're more conscious, especially if you're doing tantra or something, you can actually notice the more subtlety of how your feminine interacts with their masculine. So there's a dance, but there's also a dance under the dance. And when you can tune into the dance under the dance as well, you live in the dream. You can have like the deepest, most beautiful experiences. Then awareness transforms attraction into growth. So attraction can turn into growth. You can use polarity as a tool to evolve. You can realize you're lacking feminine qualities if you're a masculine being, then you can find a more feminine partner and you can use that relationship as a way for both of you to grow and to heal and to become more whole. This is conscious love. That's why it's not just love, it's conscious love. It's using love as a means to expand your consciousness. Conscious couples support each other's evolution. So you support your partner's evolution, you have their best interest at heart, and they have your best interest in heart as well. And that's real deep love. When you want someone to evolve on that level. Like an example from my life is I saw a Thai girl for 6 years. We were in a relationship for 6 years. And we realized it wasn't going to work. And that's because I'm in Australia, she's in Thailand, and neither of us wanted to move. And as a result, that relationship ended. And the most conscious, loving thing I could do in that scenario wasn't to cling to her. It wasn't to move to Thailand and suppress myself and not be fully happy. It was to let her go. And to let her go with love and to wish her all the best. And that's real love, you know. Real love is wanting someone to expand. Even if that expansion means that they grow apart from you. It's a deep thing. Masculine and feminine become collaborative rather than oppositional. It's not a war, it's not a fight, it's not a competition. It's about figuring out who you truly are on an energetic level and finding someone who complements that. That's not saying you have to be anything. This is where meditation, journaling, self-inquiry, all that stuff is really useful because you can figure out who you actually are. Go back to the sex, gender, and energy. Like, you can't choose your biological sex, but you can choose your gender and you can move the energy of masculine and feminine. So, who are you? That kind of question. It can become a really deep, beautiful thing. Then we've got relationship can be a yoga. Yoga basically means union in its original definition. So relationship can be a way to become more whole. It can be a way to raise your vibration. And at the deepest, relationships are not only about comfort but transformation. It's not just about being comfortable, especially if comfort involves needing to control the other person. That can be toxic. It's about transformation. It's about wholeness. It's about integration. It's about being the best version of yourself that you can be. And to show up as that for your partner and have them show up in the same way for you. And that's a beautiful container of growth. It's just amazing. What this is not. So just to catch a few questions before they show up, because I want to be pretty direct about it. I'm not talking about rigid gender roles. I'm not saying men or women have to behave in any way. You can be whatever you want to be. Men don't have to do stuff. Women don't have to do stuff. It's egalitarian here. It's equal. You just need to find your energy and what you want. Don't worry about gender roles. Who cares? Outgrow them. Society one day might do that too. So it's not male superiority. It's not patriarchy. It's not saying masculine's better. It's not saying that women have to submit to their partner. It's not saying anything like that. It's saying be you. Be in the energy that you want to be in, where you naturally feel comfortable. And don't suppress your truth. You know, if you're a woman and you're masculine, be masculine. Be who you are. If you're a man and you're feminine, be a feminine man. Go for it. Like, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. You need to be who you are. That's going to allow you to live the best life possible. It's not anti-equality. We're equal. We're equal energetically. We're equal in all terms. We're all just different expressions of the whole. And when you figure out who you are and what you are, you can fully live. You can fully build because you're building from an authentic base. It's like having a building or having like unstable foundations and building a skyscraper on it. Like say you're a feminine man, but society tells you to be masculine and you build this skyscraper on that masculine frame, right? Then it crumbles because you built it on a faulty foundation. So you got to figure out who you are at your core. Then you can build on that and actually be happy with what you're building and who you're becoming. And not denying individuality. We're all individual. We all have different amounts of these two energies. You know, some people are very masculine, some people are very feminine, some are closer to the middle. And it's not about being like, I naturally sit in the middle, but I'm a male, so I have to be more masculine. That'd be losing the point. That's not what I'm saying to do. I'm saying to figure out what you are, who you are, and to live from that place. Then we got, these are archetypal energies. They're not fixed identities. So, you know, it's all flexible. This is like one of many ways to look at the world. You don't have to be like super rigid about it, where masculine and feminine energy is all that exists. It's just one of many things. Humans are complicated. At the end of the day, this is like a lens to try and understand people more clearly, but it's just a lens. Life's complicated. It's infinitely complicated. There's more going on than any model could ever do ever. And it's a beautiful dance that we're doing here. So, masculine and feminine as that dance. So, in the masculine, there's stillness. In the feminine, there's motion. In the masculine, there's structure. In the feminine, there's life. Then we've got polarity, which is the dance between those energies. Attraction, which polarity is a part of that. It's like the magnetism that pulls people together. Integration, which is when two people couple up and they have a nice masculine feminine dance going, they can integrate, they can become more grounded in their base because they work through their shadow material. Their partner helps them with that. Say a masculine man's rigid, the feminine partner can help them to become less rigid. And they can integrate and become a whole. They can also integrate their opposite. So a masculine man can integrate their feminine as well. And the final one is consciousness. As you integrate this stuff, you become increasingly conscious. You become increasingly at peace. You also become increasingly at flow. It's a beautiful dance. That's basically what I say here. So hopefully that helped and you gained something from it. Let me know what you think. Subscribe if you feel it's valuable. And yeah, any comment would be amazing because I'd love to know what people think. Do you think I'm close? Do you think I'm totally wrong? I'd love to know your feedback. Apart from that, have a good day.